Okay, we're 5 minutes and I think that's a good time to get started. Hello everyone, my name is Miriam Tukla. I'm a project engineer for Turner Construction. I am this year's ASCE OC Construction Institute Chair. With me today I have Melissa Hilzebeck. Melissa is a Capitals Project Coordinator at the Port of Long Beach in the Construction Division. And this is our third time planning Women in Construction Week. So with Women in Construction, I want to give a huge, big thank you to our sponsors this year. With their contributions, we really are able to make Women in Construction as a big of an event as we usually do. And with that being said, we do still have one more event planned for this week. It'll be on Saturday, which is our Scholarship Saturday. We have our keynote speaker, Dr. G, and we will be announcing company awards, scholarship awards, and also raffling off one of the Radiance women's jackets. And that'll be a raffle for everyone who has attended any event all this week. So with that being said, I'm going to hand the floor over to Bree with Turner Construction to give her presentation.
Thank you, Miriam. Nice to meet you all. I'm still on mute.
Oh, you're good.
There we go. Okay, nice to meet you all virtually. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm Bree from Turner, project engineer, been working for about 6 years now. So thank you all for joining today. Happy to be here. So I'll talk a little bit about Turner, and we'll primarily focus on Southern California. We are a nationwide company, and that's a big question that we always get. And so in California, specifically SoCal, you can say we have our own little hub and a tight-knit business unit here, but we definitely have the resources of all over the country. So you can see we've been in Southern California for over 50 years. And then I'll go ahead and just highlight a few projects that we've done. So you can see here, my screen looks like it's loading, but we have the California Market Center, which is the project that I just got off of, and it's in downtown LA. We have CSU San Marcos, Inglewood Stadium, which is SoFi Stadium where the Rams and the Chargers play. You may have seen it for the Super Bowl this year, which was pretty exciting. And then some numbers, we have around 400 full-time staff spread across 15 different projects, and our 3 offices in SoCal are in LA, Orange County, and then also in San Diego. And then we'll go through a few more projects, and feel free if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. So the San Diego Convention Center expansion, Festival of Arts in Laguna Beach, which is where the Pageant of the Masters is, if you're familiar with that. Ballpark Village in San Diego. We also have the Wilshire Grand in downtown LA, which, you know, is the tallest building this side. So that's another very exciting project. And that's something also really great about Turner is that all of our projects really impact the communities that we all live and work in. So I think that's amazing. For example, the MSC project. You could say LAX has a bad reputation. Anyone who goes there does not enjoy it, but we can say that by building MSC and being part of that project, we helped impact so many people by making LAX a better place. And then something else I wanted to highlight about Turner is our sustainability efforts. So Turner has been the #1 green builder rated by ENR for the past 11 years, which is a great accomplishment. Across our company, we have over 1,500 LEED APs. We've diverted tons and tons of waste, and then we have many LEED certified buildings and green buildings in general. And with these rankings, what that means is that Turner builds revenue-wise, so with dollars, a lot of green buildings. However, we wanted to take a look on the inside and say, just because we build a LEED building or a green building, did we build it in a green way? And so a new effort in Turner is to redefine sustainability and what it means to be a green builder. And this is passion across all over the country and pretty much across everyone that I meet. And almost every one of our projects today has some sort of sustainability component. So our primary platform is that we're focusing on reducing construction emissions, which includes waste, fuel, water, and electricity by 50% by the year 2030. So every project now is required to meter essentially their utility usage, and we go ahead and track it and find high use items in the schedule, which ties into the discussion today. And we work to reduce utility usage in regard to those items. So I know I'm rambling on about sustainability, but I think it's a huge important effort in construction and engineering as a whole, and also resiliency as well, designing buildings that will live a long life and live many different uses within their life. So that's in a nutshell. And like I said, I'll stay on the call, so feel free. I'll stay on and hang on if you have any questions. But thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And yeah, thank you.
Of course, and thank you, Turner Construction, for your support in this event. Really appreciate it. So with that, as we get our screen back, I'm going to introduce our event today and our speaker. Today we'll be talking about P6 and scheduling, and we have Ken McBroom with McCarthy. Ken's passion is working with construction teams to eliminate waste and increase value for both the client and the project. He has over 27 years of construction project scheduling experience, both as a project scheduler and leading a department. His lean journey started in 2011, and he can never go back to continuing to do work just because that's the way we've always done it. He's a planning and scheduling professional, a certified Scrum Master, and a Lean Construction Institute instructor for introducing the Last Planner system. He's also the current AACE Southern California president. His expertise is in construction scheduling, the Last Planner system, Primavera P6, which is today's topic, Microsoft Project, Oracle Primavera Cloud, Lean, Scrum, the 5S, 8 forms of waste, basically all things Lean, 4D scheduling, daily huddles, and weekly work planning. So without further ado, Ken, go ahead and...
That guy sounds amazing. You should hire him. I don't know if anyone wants, but you should hire that guy because anyway. So everyone, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to talk to you today about scheduling. I'm going to use Mural today. And right now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Mural, I'm going to drop something into the chat. So if you're trying to multitask and listen to this, it's not going to go well because you're going to be interactive. So let me go back here and share that screen. So go ahead and click on that link. Now, you're going to get assigned a random animal. I had nothing to do with the animal you get. If you don't like your animal, I had nothing to do with it. So we'll give everybody a chance to get in here because I'm going to take over and not allow you to look around. So a couple of things after that introduction. I don't know if I need to actually say anything, but I have taught scheduling at Cal State Long Beach and Cal Poly, and I am the 2022 AACE president, which really focused on project controls and scheduling. And my current role at McCarthy, I've been focusing on lean and lean practices for the last 2 years. So I'm going to summon everybody and I'm going to make you follow me. So, okay. So first thing to do, just to get familiar with Mural, we're going to do this little exercise called Pick Your Pop. So you can take one of these little red light bulbs and just put it on how you feel right now. If you're a Mural expert, you feel free to drop a different icon in. But just take one of these little, just click it, drag it, and move it over. And I'm this dog. I am ready for business. So is it not allowing you people to click?
I think we have to change from like a cursor to a hand.
Okay, I just released you, so let me see if did that work?
Oh, I can pick it up now. Yep.
Okay. A couple of you want it to be Friday. Somebody moved mine onto my dog's face. So the nice part is you'll see here, it says visiting rabbit, visiting lion. So I have no idea who it is. So it's anonymous. So those of you that are introverts, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I feel you. But there you go. Everybody wants it to be Friday. Okay. I will talk fast and we'll try to get to Friday. So let's go down to, I'm going to summon everybody again to follow me. And so just so I know who I'm talking to, and I want to tailor this experience to be the most value for you in your time. So just grab one of these pins and just let me know what level of expertise you are on P6. So I feel better. There's no experts here. So nobody can call me out on it. I appreciate that. I can lie and no one's going to know. And for those of you right now watching the recording, you can't do a little pin if you're watching the recording. You should have been here live. Okay. So somewhat to a little to nothing. Perfect. I feel much better now. I feel like I can actually talk about what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and summon everybody again, and we're going to lock you in. So there are, according to AACE, and there's the recommended practice, there's 5 different levels of schedules. Okay, there's a level 0 to level 4. And we're going to give you an example of each one of these, but just realize as the number goes up, so does the level of detail. So basically a level 0 schedule, you could think of it as just a single bar. So it could just say, you know, construction project or design phase, and it's just one bar. So it's just a super high level schedule, which these have their place, right? If I'm doing capital planning for the next 20 years, I'm not going to have a bunch of one-day activities. I'm going to have some bars like this. Okay, so there is a place for those. So if we go to a level 1 schedule, now we're breaking it down into a little bit more detail, right? So we took that same project that just said CSULB Peterson Hall, and now we have it broken down into pre-construction and construction, along with a little bit more detail underneath each one of those. If we go to a level 2 schedule, so now we're breaking it down even further, right? So now we have demolition, but now we have the demolition of the exterior and the basement and level 1 and so on and so forth. So as we're going down, we're getting a little bit more detailed. A level 3 schedule is basically what we call a baseline schedule. So this is what you would submit to an owner, or if you're an owner, this is what you would most likely receive, that you're going to have to evaluate your contractor schedule. And so that's a level 3 schedule. And then lastly is the level 4. This is a 3-week look ahead schedule where you're trying to drill down and run the project on a daily basis. So that's my AACE hat saying that. My last planner hat says this doesn't work and you need to use last planner system. But I'll try to keep my lean biases to myself for right now. So we're going to go to another exercise. I'm going to release you so you can come over here. So I just want you to define critical. When somebody tells you something is critical, what does that mean? And all you need to do here in Miro is if you just double click anywhere, it'll just drop a post-it note, and then you can just start to type. When someone says critical, what does it mean to you? Absolutely necessary, hot, important, endangering, substantial completion, urgent, do it now. Yep, I like that one. Significant impact if not met, urgent. Yep. I think you absolutely. Crucial, many other items depend on it. Yep. Crucial, needs to be completed to move to the next phase. Yep, if postponed. will impact the whole thing. Yep, those are all great definitions of critical. So let's just look at the definition of what the critical path is when it comes to a schedule. The longest continuous chain of activities which establishes the minimum overall project duration. You're like, what the heck does that mean? A nicer, easier way to say it is if you delay completing anything on the critical path, you extend the final completion date. So that's why this is called a CPM or critical path method schedule, because we're dealing with what is the critical path. And a critical path is different than a bar chart schedule because a bar chart schedule doesn't have logic or calculations. It doesn't have what's called float. And so to have a critical path schedule, I'm going to go ahead and summon everyone again and take control. So float is what defines the critical path. If you don't have float, the computer can't calculate what's important and what's not. So positive float means you're ahead of schedule. A total float equaling 0 means you're on schedule, and negative float means you're behind schedule. Now, in here it says normally indicated as red on the schedule. So when you get a CPM schedule, the critical path, at least on a baseline, should only have one critical path, right? Everything, so it's either red or green. The reason there's an asterisk there is there's a functionality in P6 that says if anything has negative float, turn it red. So if a schedule goes behind schedule, the whole thing turns red, and now it's very hard to figure out what the critical path is, but you can change that in a setting in P6, but just realize that if it's a baseline and it's the schedule's on time, the default is the longest path is red. So let's just talk about some P6 basics. So the first thing is the WBS. So the WBS in P6 is really just an outline. You know, there are those in my profession of scheduling that like to brag about how many activity schedules they have. You go, oh, I've got a 10,000 activity schedule, which to me sounds like a lot of waste. But if you have even 500 activities, if you don't have any sort of organization, it's very, very hard to follow and understand what's going on and where it's happening. And so by creating a WBS, you can actually organize your work so that it's a lot easier to understand where these work activities are supposed to take place. And so the way it works in P6 is you have to create the WBS, the picture on the right there. That's a completely different screen. You create the WBS using indentation. And then what you create on the WBS then is what, when you go over to your Gantt view where you have your bar charts and your activities, that is what shows up. So where it says construction summary, milestones, pre-con, and construction in blue, those all have to be created in a different field, okay? So these cannot be created in this view, they have to be created in that view. So let's talk about activity types in P6. So when you go to add something into P6, these are the activity types you're going to see. We're going to talk about a couple of these that are the ones you're going to see the most. So the first one is a milestone. So a milestone is a zero duration activity. It has no duration. It uses no resources. It's usually used for start or finish of something. So a notice to proceed would be the item that starts our construction projects. It's usually a letter, a contractual document that is handed over to the contractor. And so that starts the clock because the contract says you have 500 days from notice to proceed. So that handing over of that letter didn't really take up any time. It just marks a point in time. Same thing with substantial completion on our projects. When we get our substantial completion sign off by whatever agency has authority, all right, they sign all the paperwork and they say you are now officially done. And so that's a point in time, but it does not take time. So the other thing is when we create our schedules, usually we will put a constraint of some kind. I'm not going to go too deep into that right now, but we put a constraint on the finish milestone. And that's how the computer knows what day are we supposed to be done. So you will have a milestone in the schedule that says complete project. You'll tell it needs to be July 13th. And then it will measure everything else based off, are you before or after July 13th? The next one that's in the schedule is called, P6 calls it task dependent. So these do consume time. They do consume resources. You can measure them and they have a start and a finish. So most of your activities in a schedule that you see are what P6 calls task dependent activities. We just call them activities in the industry. And with P6 and Primavera coming out with their new software, Oracle Cloud, there's a difference between task and activities. But for right now, for what you need to know, when you look at a schedule, if it's a line, it's an activity, except if it's a level of effort. So a level of effort is really just a hammock of a bunch of activities underneath it. So if I have a sequence of activities for my exterior skin on the north side of the building, and I want to know how long is that whole work process going to take, I would create a hammock or a level of effort, and I would pick the first one and the last one, and it would tell me it's going to take you 4 months to do your exterior skin on the north side. And so hammocks or level of efforts, as they're known in P6, are super helpful to put in there because it kind of gives you the overall flow and picture of the schedule. And if you remember going back to our levels of scheduling, it allows you to have a baseline schedule of a lot of detail, but yet then if I go to and have all my level of efforts kind of at the top of the schedule, I can see sort of a higher level 30,000 foot view of the schedule in the same file, and tells me when major components of work are supposed to happen. So how do you read a P6 schedule? So here's an example. So the blue line is your data date. So the blue line is what the schedule is updated to. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean it's today's date. It could be 6 months ago. Hopefully it's not 6 months from now, but so that's the date the schedule is updated through. So when you receive a schedule, if you're reviewing a schedule or you're creating a schedule, that blue line tells you this schedule is as updated as of, and of this one, it looks like February 18th, maybe. Okay. So that's what that blue line means. That's not the print date. That's not the run date. That's the date it's been updated through. So everything to the left of the schedule are actual dates. So those have been, somebody's gone in there, they have physically put in, this started and finished on this date. Okay. The other way you can tell that is right here. After these dates right here, there's a little A that stands for actual. So if you don't have the bar chart view and you just have the columns with the dates, you can figure out what are the actual dates and what are the planned dates. Usually the default setting in P6 for actual dates is blue. These have some little black lines on top of them, but the default is blue. Anything to the right of the data date is a planned duration. Okay, so these are actuals. These are when we say it actually happened. On the right of it, this is when we say it's going to happen. Okay, and so here you can see this activity started actually on February 15th, and we're planning, according to this update, to finish on February 26th. Okay, so that's when you get a schedule. That's how you read what's planned, what's actual, when was it updated through. Okay, so now we're gonna have a little bit of fun, and I'm gonna release you all, and I want you, and we're gonna do a voting session. So do this, start voting session. You can all have one vote. We're going to clear this. Shapes with text selection here. So on this schedule right here, I want you to vote. Is it ahead of schedule or behind schedule? And if you think it's a behind schedule, hit yes. If you think it's behind schedule, if you don't think it's behind schedule, hit no. And if you have no idea, hit the little yellow one. So all you got to do is click on it because I hit the vote. So I'm just going to vote I don't know. And so now my vote has been taken, and we'll see. Got 9 people left to vote. Six people are multitasking. Come back. There we go, to the sound of my voice. Take a vote. We're almost done. And the 3 people that are left, I'm going to assume are eating lunch. Okay, we're going to end the voting session. So 6 votes for don't know, 5 is it's not behind schedule, and 4 say it is behind schedule. So I'm mean, I'm sorry. The answer on this one is you don't know, because all you have here is it's red. That could be the critical path. It could be activities. It could be behind schedule. But so what I'm going to do now, and please remember, I don't know how you voted. So if you voted wrong, you can't hate me because I don't know. We're going to do the exact same schedule, but now we're going to do another voting session. Same thing. Selected. Same thing. Same schedule, same everything. Is it behind schedule? And there's a total float column that's added that's different on this one. What do you think? Is this behind schedule? Yes or no? Seven people left. Six people. Give it another few seconds. Okay, we'll go ahead and end this. So the answer, yes, it is behind schedule. And the reason why it's behind schedule is because there's negative 23 days of float. And so whenever you have a situation of negative float, that means we have told the computer what the end date is, and the sequence of activities are going past the date that we've told the computer. And since it's gone past that date, the computer says you're behind, and the negative 23 is actually how far we are behind the schedule. Okay, so whenever, and the reason I wanted to do this was, if you're an owner and you're reviewing a schedule and a printout, you absolutely want to see the negative float column, or the negative float. Hopefully there's no negative float in your jobs. You want to see the total float column, because the total float column will instantly tell you how is the project doing just by looking at that one column. Okay. Let's go to our next exercise. Let's see what we've got here. So again, let's do another voting session on this one. Selection and start voting. So is this one? Do you think this is behind schedule or not? I wish I had cool elevator music in the background, but I don't. I'm sorry. Seven people left. What do you think? Behind schedule or not? For the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and end this voting session. We got 5 yeses, 4 no's, 3 I don't know. Okay. So again, on this one, because I have negative values right here, I'm going to say it's behind schedule. Okay. So if you ever see a negative value in the total float, it is safe to say, now this isn't an absolute, there could be an interim milestone that maybe that's behind, but the overall project's not. I'm just talking as a rule of thumb. If you see negative float on your schedule, you are most likely behind schedule. Okay. And the last one. So the last one, I'm going to go ahead and summon everyone since we're done with the voting for right now. So another way to review a schedule that's super helpful. I feel like, by the way, I almost put a little picture of that magician who gave away all the secrets, because I'm giving you all the secrets of how to really review a schedule super easy. Is if you get a schedule and you create the target bars. And so what that means is in P6, you can say, make last month's schedule my target. Okay. And then you can say, show me this month versus last month. And so what this represents, the bigger red lines, this is the current update. Okay. The target bars are these little yellow ones. That's what the computer said it was going to be last month. So I don't need a digger report. I don't need a narrative. I don't need a story. I don't need anything. I look at this printout and I instantly can see you guys lost the entire month. What happened to the job? If I look at this little bar, supposed to happen the second week of April, it's happening the second week of May. Just by doing this comparison, super simple. I can look at a schedule and I know exactly what's going on. You lost the entire month. Now, why you lost the month, how you deal with that, totally different story. But if you don't have these target bars and you just get this update, it's really hard to figure out what just happened last month. So the target bars give you the whole story of what changed in a quick instant of time. Additionally, if you look at these target bars, and they're way different, so I can look at this right here and I know logic has changed. And the reason I know that is, here's acclimate second court, here's finished wood flooring, and then final paint. But last month, final paint was supposed to be over here. So obviously some logic has changed in such a way that this final paint that was supposed to happen over here is now happening over there. Same thing with this interior scoreboards, right? It was supposed to happen here. And if you look at the relation of those target bars, right, this was here supposed to happen before any of this. But now that scoreboard is happening after. So again, rather than going through a 500-page, digger report or a change report, if I look at the target bars, I can pretty quickly see what's gone on in the schedule. And now I can ask those questions of, hey, why did this logic change? Why is final paint so far out of whack? Why is interior scoreboards happening in a different order? And again, super quick, easy, visual. And so you're not trying to read through a narrative. And the other thing is, when you get this from your contractors, for the owners, or if you're a contractor reviewing the schedule and want to see what your superintendent did, you can't hide anything when you're comparing this month to last month. So let's talk about delays. So AACE has this recommended practice 29R-3. It's 135 pages on how to do delays and analysis. Now, this right here is a high level of all the different types. And life would be great if each one of these types gave you the same answer, but they don't. Okay. So you should be saying, well, if I'm on a construction project and there was a delay and there's an end date, it shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter which methodology I use. They should all come up with the same answer. And that's not the case. And so what claims consultants do, and to justify their life, is they will do each one of these analysis, find the one that gives them the best answer that they want. Then they will argue why that methodology is the correct methodology to use. Okay. And so even though they may not believe it, but it gives them the answer they're getting paid to create. And so that's why they'll go through here and pick their favorite one. Now, the one that is normally referenced in contractual specs is a contemporaneous time impact analysis, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. It's sort of the most common one to do, but it's not the only one. But just realize that if you're on a project and it's delayed, whether you're the contractor, you may want to look at different ways of running this analysis. If you're the owner, You may want to look at different ways and try to understand which way it works and which answer you're going to get. Because when you go look at delays, there is different types. And I have that statement up there. It has to be on the critical path. And I've been on a lot of projects where there were delays and impacts, but it didn't touch the critical path, and the project teams didn't understand why they couldn't get any time. Well, you don't get time unless it hits the critical path. And so there's, compensable means I get money. Non-compensable means I get no money. Excusable means it ain't my fault. Non-excusable means it is your fault. And if I'm the contractor side, this is how I feel. I'm over here, pick me, it's compensable and I want money. And owner's like, no, doctor, no. The answer is no, you're not getting anything. So let's just talk about time impact analysis. So this is a lot of words. I don't like putting words on here, but I'm gonna let you read that for a second. And then I'm gonna break down what all this says in a way that makes it understandable. Okay. So you update the schedule, you copy it, you make the unimpacted the target. We've talked about what a target schedule does. You put your new activities in, and then you compare the float between the two, and the variance is how much time was impacted to the project. So here's an example. So in this example, the red bars is the TIA. So we've copied the project. We've set the copy of the project and the project to be equal. Okay, so I've copied it and I've made it its baseline. So if you do that, if you copy a schedule and you make it the baseline, the target bars and the actual bars will line up perfectly because you haven't done anything to it, right? The dates are identical. So then what you do is you insert the added activity. So in this case, Fragnet for unforeseen asbestos electrical conduits. We put all the activities in. We logically tie them to the activity that it delayed. And then we try to figure out what actually happened on the project. So we'll do one last poll and see if you guys can get this. And if not, you can tell me I'm mean afterwards. So the question is going to be, if you were looking at this time impact analysis, how much time is the contractor owed? Are they owed no time? Should they get 12 days? Should they get 43 days? Or should they get 31 days? So take a look at that and see if you can figure out how much time you think the owner should get, or the owner should give to the contractor. Go ahead and take a guess. Nobody is going to know how you voted. So if it's wrong, don't worry about it. And actually, I've learned that when I do it wrong and I'm told how I'm doing it wrong, I remember it better. That's why I'm actually doing this right now.
While we're finishing up our voting, we had a question come in the chat. What was the name of the standard for delays again?
Okay, I'll go back to that. So the most typical, I'm assuming you're talking about an analysis, is a time impact analysis, or TIA.
Yeah, in the AACE, wasn't there a standard?
Oh yes, I'll go back to that. I'll show that.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't have that memorized off the top of my head, but I'll get there. We'll go back. So we're going to end this voting session. I got 12 days. We got 43 days, and don't give them any time. No time must be owners. Or like no time, and 31 days. So let's see what the right answer is. So the baseline total float of -12. So what this means, and again, I'm doing this, I'm doing this backwards. You're like, hey, you're supposed to do this before you had to vote. That means before we were impacted at all, the schedule was 12 days behind. When we inserted these activities and tied them in, we then went to 43 days behind. So the impact of these activities is the 43 minus 12. So the correct answer is 31 days. So that's how you come up with that. And that's the reason why, and I'm going to go back up here. It says update the schedule to the day before the delay. And this is why the reason we do it this way, because if we didn't update the schedule to the day before the delay and we put the TIA in or the Fragnet in, and it said 43 days, you'd be like, hey, I get 43 days. Well, you were already 12 days late before the owner or before the unforeseen condition. And so that's why the best practice is to update to the day before, figure out where the job was at, and then put your delay in, and the contractor would be entitled to the difference. And so going back to the AACE, it's recommended practice 29R-03. If you're an AACE member, you can get the PDF free off of the website. If you're not a member, this is where my sales pitch comes in. Go ahead and join. It's actually, if you're interested in project controls or scheduling in any way, shape, or form, we have it's a great community, great people to get to know. So just really quick, so when you get a TIA as an owner or you create one, what are your options? And I'm going to summon and lock you all in again. So the owner can accept it. They can say, you're right, here's your new end date, and I'll pay all your extended general conditions. If only that was the world we lived in. That would be so awesome for contractors, but that usually doesn't happen. They can say, okay, yes, this unforeseen condition delayed the project, but you were creating a concurrent delay, so I'll offer you time. I'll give you the new end date, but I'm not going to give you any money. That happens a lot. The third one happens, but not that often. They can say, okay, yes, I've delayed you, or the project's been delayed. It's not any fault of the contractor. Give me an acceleration schedule and a cost, and then let me see if I should just pay the acceleration cost or if I should pay the general conditions. And so owners will oftentimes say, well, if I pay the general conditions, I'm a month late, but if I pay the general conditions plus 5%, I get my job back on time. And so that's a business decision, and maybe they want to do that. But that's completely in the realm of being reasonable. And the last one owners could do, just reject the request and say, nope, the delay is not our fault, and I want a recovery schedule. And so those are really the options, because remember, when you're creating a TIA or a time impact analysis, you're asking for a new end date, and normally the contractor is asking for more money to extend out that new end date, because trailers and salaries and trucks and equipment aren't free. And so if it has to be in a job a month longer, somebody has to pay for that. So that's what the extended general conditions cover. So with that, I'm going to open up for questions from the group. I'll answer anyone that you got as far as scheduling or even lean. Feel free to type that in the chat. Okay. No questions. Either went so fast and so far over your head, you have no idea what to ask, or I was really amazing. So what we're gonna do.
A question that came in, Ken.
Yeah.
So we have, I may have missed it, but how do you set target schedule?
Okay, so that's a functionality in P6. You have to maintain it. It's called maintaining a baseline and assigning a baseline. It's a two-step process in P6. I don't have P6 running to actually show you how to do that, but it is a functionality in P6 where you can take the current schedule and just say make it a baseline, or you can take another schedule and actually bring it into the background and create a baseline that way. So it's something that has to be done in P6.
Hey, quick question. Can you undo that? Like, can you make them not the baseline anymore? Because I feel like I always mess it up when I start messing with that.
Yes, yes. So when P6, I think it's something like 100. It's a large number of baselines. So you create the baseline, which means you link it to the file, but then you have to go to another screen and say assign baseline, maintain baseline. So when you import it, if you don't assign it or and you have to do it both. You have to assign the baseline and maintain the baseline, because I think it can only have 3 active baselines at a time. You have to import it and then assign it. And then if you don't want that to be the baseline, you just change the assignment to a different schedule in the background.
Got it. Thanks.
Sure.
Our next question is a Fragnet the same as a TIA?
It's a great question. So let's go back over to here. So a Fragnet stands for fragmented network. And it really is, the way I describe it is, it's a small schedule and a big schedule. That's all it is. And so I have my baseline schedule, my weekly update or my monthly update or whatever schedule I have, and I want to insert something new or different. That's a Fragnet. Okay. Now, I may be putting a Fragnet into a schedule because it's a change and I don't know the impact of it, or it's a change and I want to track the work because it's a large change order. That doesn't necessarily mean it becomes a time impact analysis. The only time a Fragnet becomes a time impact analysis is when you go through this procedure of creating a baseline, logically tying it in, doing the comparison, and coming up with the difference in the total float. That's when a Fragnet then becomes a time impact analysis. And if I didn't answer that question correctly, or that didn't work for you, let me know and I'll try to do a better job.
Thank you. And do you have a rough idea of current costs for P6 software?
I don't. I know it's not. I know it's not cheap. I think the last, I mean, I've kind of been out of that world for a while, but I mean, if you wanted to just go buy a single license of P6, I think it was like $4,000, $5,000. It's not something you're going to buy just because you want to play with.
Correct. And we do have a P6 contact, so I have put Dave Alman's email into the chat for any of those looking to purchase licenses.
Yeah, don't quote me on the price because I have no idea, but I know it wasn't cheap.
One last question. What are the main advantages of P6 versus other programs such as Microsoft projects? What makes it stand out?
So Microsoft Project is Excel with bars. It is very easy to use. If you can figure out Excel, you can use Microsoft Project. One project doesn't have the ability to do target bars, and so showing you that the power of target bars, Microsoft Project, to the best of my knowledge, my knowledge is a few years old, but the best of my knowledge can't do that. And I don't know if Project will do float calculations where it will do a backwards and forward pass to come up with those numbers. It will do logic and push activities out and give you a bar chart format. And so the reason why P6 is the industry standard is because when owners write it into their contracts, that's really what, if you go to court, you're going to need it in P6 because that's what the courts recognize is the float calculations. They've accepted the algorithm and how it calculates those numbers have been accepted in previous court cases. And so that's what the courts will accept. And so that's why owners put it into their contracts. If it's a small schedule, there's really nothing wrong using Microsoft Project. If you're going to have a 5 or 6 or 5,000 activity schedule, Project can handle small schedules. I would not recommend large schedules. It just doesn't have the horsepower and the organization functionality and different features that P6 does.
Thank you. And I'll leave it to you to close us out.
Okay. So for those of you who've never done a plus delta, it's a lean practice. It helps me So my ask from you is what did you like about the presentation and what could I do different next time? So all you do is just click right here on the plus side, because the plus makes me feel better. And it'll give you a Post-it note and just type in what you liked about today's presentation. And more importantly, Delta, what could I do better next time presenting to this group? Was there something that I didn't talk about, something I talked too much about? What can I do better? And for those of you who don't know, you can go down here and you can give a little bit. I can celebrate. I can go, oh, I like the little hearts. Okay.
Wonderful. So while each of you are finishing up writing your comments in the